Hey YouTube. So it's Monday morning. We had a heck of a rainstorm last night in northern Pennsylvania, I suppose. I don't know if it went across the state or not. But my front loader bucket, and I had just emptied it a little bit ago, was totally full of water. I couldn't believe it. So, well, not totally full, but there was about 6 or 8 inches of water in it, which was a lot of water we got last night. Guys, I know that the videos that I have made about business are painful. I can see it in the comments because there ain't any. And I know what it's like to have to go through listening to somebody tell you what the truth is. But I'd like you to keep one thing in mind. I lived that life. I lived it. And I made all the mistakes in the beginning. And then, I guess I was around, I don't know, 26. And I started thinking. And I really started thinking. And I started putting 2 and 2 together. And I insisted that I was going to win. That's why I call myself Juan at the end of my thing. Because I won. And the reason that this stuff is important is because it can make people change their life for the better in so many ways. It's unbelievable. Okay, so I'm going on a walk and I'm going to do one more talk. This freaking video, yeah, this thing's going good. Alright, so here we go. So the last time I talked about business things that relate to money, which this was the other day. Let me back up with this camera a little. Here we go. I ended the video with the categories that are used in projects. In other words, the things that you need to look at. So again, the categories are money, manpower, material, and machinery. There is no project that does not have all 4 of them in one way or another. And they're the only things you need to worry about in order to be successful in building something or just finishing a project. And this doesn't mean just building. It can be any kind of a project. This is just another path I have here. So I had previously talked about machinery and tools. Today I want to talk about the material side of the equation. Somebody asked me to do these videos, and I'm going to, gosh darn, just so you know, I'm going to do them until it's finished. There'll be 2 more after this and 1 more after that. So 3 more videos after this will finish up this thing, and we can move on and do some fun stuff. But I want this answered, because I think if anybody's out there with half a brain and they want to hear what's right, they will listen to this. So anyway, we're talking about materials that have to do with projects. Alright? So to accumulate a shopping list of materials, what you need to do is a takeoff from a set of plans or specifications. A set of plans or specifications. A takeoff is just a way to determine what all is needed to complete a project. That's all it is. When you hear contractors say I got to do a takeoff, that's what they mean. A takeoff should be methodical and it should be complete. In other words, you have to read everything. And if there's anything you don't understand, you need to read it again or ask someone who does know. Doing a takeoff by the square foot method. Now a lot of guys will give you a price for something like a house and they'll say, oh well, you know, how big is the house, and they bark out a price because they're figuring something $90 a square foot, $120 a square foot. It doesn't matter. I'm here to tell you that doing a takeoff by the square foot method or some other volume generated method of calculation is risky. Okay, it's risky because you never know, and you'll hear at the end of my thing here, I'm going to tell you a little story about what happened to me once. Anyway, this is not to say that doing a takeoff using a computer is bad, okay? Because it can be good, especially since computers can do math calculations so quickly. It all depends on the questions that the program asks you and what the answers are. That's what will determine how well the takeoff has been done if you're using a computer. Now, when I said methodical, I can't even begin to explain that. I would have to be sitting next to you to show you what methodical really is. So anyway, there are a number of ways to do a takeoff of a set of plans and or specs. You can be as simple as just ordering one item. You know, maybe putting a garage door somewhere, and it's all you got to order. Or it can include thousands of items. Thousands. Depends on what you're building. Okay? Sometimes they needed more than one estimator to estimate one job because it was so big. So anyway, it depends on what part you perform or what part you have others perform to fulfill the contract and complete the project. And I want to say this so that it's loud and clear. You complete projects to the owner's satisfaction. This is not, business is not a way that you screw people. Business is a way that you satisfy people. You satisfy the owner of the project. They hired you and they hired you for a good reason. You should satisfy what they want. Anyway, buying materials can be tricky or it can be easy. It all depends on whether the material is specified correctly or not. So in other words, if you don't have an exact color of things, and you know, it can confuse stuff, or exact makeup or an exact model number, it makes it hard. So depending on whether the material is specified correctly, such as a part number, a brand, a color like I said, a manufacturer, or what type of material the thing is made out of, whatever you're talking about. So whenever you see the term in a contract that says or brand equal, you want to start shaking. Why? Well, this brand equal may be subjective, and you might find yourself buying a particular brand a second time around and losing money from your first purchase. Man, it's beautiful out here. Waiting for a deer to jump out at any moment. Anyway, I'll give you a good example here of and if you watch my videos, you'll understand what I'm talking about here. You know what, did you notice that I'm walking on these leaves and they're not making near as much noise as they were making the other day? Yeah, so anyway, what was I talking about? Specs. Okay, suppose in the specification it calls for clear red oak boards. Clear, that means there's no knots in them, no imperfections, just natural, nice looking wood. And it's 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's for the window sills in a home. Now if you listen to my other video, you know where I'm going with this. It says nothing about quarter sawn or slab sawn sawing of wood. Nothing. So you can order slab sawn boards and be perfectly within the terms of the specifications. There's just one problem with that. If those boards cup or warp, everybody knows that windowsills are supposed to be flat and level. And you will be replacing them at your own cost. Because if the people go to court and all they got to do is say, hey, this windowsill, you can't set nothing on it because it falls off. The judge is going to say, well, windowsills are flat. I got them in my house. And believe me, I've been there. And it's exactly true. And people do understand this. I'm back down to where the bottom of my claybird range is. Anyway, people understand this stuff, and you will be replacing it. Okay? So, an estimator, and that's what you are when it comes to material lists. You're an estimator. You're estimating what you need for the project. And they call it estimating because half the people in the world don't do it right. They look at this and try to get all the things, but sometimes they don't pick them all up. Sometimes they miss things. But anyway, you must be familiar with all the types of materials that relate to the projects you do. So it doesn't matter what kind of project you do. I don't care if you are building houses or you're cutting firewood. You have to know what kind of stuff you're working with. So as an estimator, you also need to know about the other variables. And the other variables, like I mentioned this morning, are manpower, money, and machinery. If you don't know about these things, you're in trouble. You need to be well versed in all of those things. Like you hear me talking, this is years of doing it. When you're as versed as I am in talking about this stuff, or better, and there's guys out there that are sharper than I am, if you're versed in this and you can talk about the same things that I can talk about with this, you will succeed and you'll do well, as long as you don't get shafted for your money with people, and that's a different story. But anyway, a punch list. Before I wanted to talk about a punch list, so I have that on my mind, but let me just say this about materials. Some brands of materials are predictable to their quality. In other words, you know you're going to get a good something or other. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. There are things in this country that are made by the manufacturers that are always good. Very seldom do they break down. So like I say, most products or some products are predictable to quality. On the other hand, some products are predictable in deficiency. So in other words, they don't do what they're supposed to be doing. It's like a joke. You know, you try to get stuff from them, and no matter what you buy or how many times you buy, you got to buy 4 of them to get one that works. That's not what, you know, helps you in business. Boy, it's really getting a little dark. It's only like 3 o'clock. Well, I guess it's 4 o'clock, but I love it down here. This is the kind of deer hunting that I do in stuff like this. Anyway, so like I said about the brand, some are good, some are bad. Now, I talked about historical data before. And the same way historical data helps you in machinery, the machinery end of things, it can also help you in material end. Because if you kept track of everything and whether you had to go back and fix things or not, what that means is that you have data somewhere and cost data written down for a product that failed and you had to replace. So, you know, if you do a good, if you keep good data, you'll be able to refer back to that stuff. And not only that, you'll be able to tell your customers what is good stuff. In other words, you can put it right in your contract that you prefer this. This is the brand you'd rather use. Not because it's cheap, but because it's good. You know, when I first started in this business, everything had to be cheap. Well, cheap is not the way to go. You can get inexpensive, but not cheap. Okay? I love these eastern pine. I wish that thing was 20 inches in diameter. I'd cut it down. I got some hemlock over here and some more. There's some nice hemlock here. It's sort of small. This is a big one though, this hemlock. This one I could probably get. Oh man, if you look way up there, there's probably a good 45 feet of straight boards. The only thing is you can see that there's something been pecking at it. Probably a woodpecker or something. They're making a design. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, I said you can find some good materials and some bad materials. Okay, so the thing is if you keep track of this stuff, like I say, you can tell the owner what's good and what's not good. And that what happens then is when everything works good and you've done a good job, you end up not getting a big punch list at the end of the project. Now, for those of you who don't know, and believe me, the dreaded punch list is a list provided to you by the owner of discrepancies that need correcting before a project can be called finished. Okay? A punch list. The owner is the person or an owner's representative, depends on how big it is. If it's a state project, it'll be an engineer. If it's a residential project, it'll be the homeowner. They're going to give you a list of the things they want corrected or that they don't like, and you'll have to fix those things in order to get your money. So let me give you an example of this, or a little something about myself that I learned over the years. Getting out of wind here again, guys. When I take my car to get inspected, right, I take great pride and pleasure in knowing that it passes inspection. And it does pass inspection because I inspect it before I take it there. Likewise, I would personally inspect every project for completion so that a punch list was unnecessary by the owner. Now you would say, well, you know, you can't know everything the owner wants. You're right, but I can know what my contract says. And if that contract called for something, I don't care if I had to go across, so halfway across the world to get it. If I said yes and I charged them for it, I got it. And if I'd have to make something from scratch, I'd do that, because I wanted them satisfied. That was important to me. So I made the punch list unnecessary, and then that allowed me to get paid quicker. And believe me, I'm busy now at 63. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I had people quit just because they couldn't keep up with me. My own sons tell me that. I can't keep up with you, Dad. You know, we can't keep up with you. Okay, well, whatever. I didn't think I was that freaking much of a runaround. But anyway. So, anyhow, some questions on the Woodmizer has generated this thread of videos, don't forget. So it would be appropriate to note how important it is to check logs for quality as best you can before you purchase them. So in other words, this is like in reverse. You're buying the materials, and you want to do the same thing with, you know, with what I said about buying good stuff. But when you go to buy logs, you don't want to buy logs that look rotted. You don't know what, if a tree's dead in the woods, you have no idea of knowing whether it's dry rotted or not. There's a nice red oak here. There's another white pine right there. Doesn't look that big from here behind the chicken coop there, but that sucker's probably, oh, I bet you it's 14 inches in diameter. Another couple of years and I'll have a bunch of them here to cut. So anyway, what did I say? The Woodmizer started these videos, yeah. So, whether you're buying logs to mill for yourself like I do, or whether you're buying them to mill and resell, knowing what you're buying is of the utmost importance. Okay, so this is what buying materials is about. You got to make sure you're not buying junk. You go down to Lowe's and you know they have those little carts that you push around, and doors, you know, $75 for a door. Wow, that door's only $75. You buy the thing, take it home, only to find out there was 3 inches cut off of it because some short guy decided he wanted a shorter door. I've seen it all, guys. I've seen it all. So anyway, again, what I was saying, there are all kinds of material vary in quality. So knowing what to cut, or what cut to make on a log, is to get the best quality out of it is a plus for your pocketbook. That's what you're wanting to do. So if you buy good logs and you cut them according to what is going to give you the best lumber, then you will, when you sell it, make good money on it. Just got to hold out for the right guy that understands what I do. There's a lot of guys out there know how to do this. There's a lot of carpenters out there, guys, who don't know how to just bang nails. They know what wood is about. They know what to do with it, how to work it. I've watched some guys on the YouTube there that are fantastic with it. Fantastic. Let me catch my breath. So anyway, all kinds of material, like I said, vary in quality. So knowing how to cut it is to get the best quality is good for you. So anyway, this is also where the moisture content of lumber comes in. If you sell lumber that's very wet and someone starts nail it on the ceiling in their heated home, you're going to be called the bad guy when it shrinks and cracks. Now, you know, you can say to the people, well, I told you it was green, this, that, the other thing, and hopefully this will work. If I was you, I'd get a paper sign that they knew it was green and they knew that if they didn't dry it properly it would get funny. But in lieu of that, if you don't, you're going to be called the bad guy. So not only do you need to know what type and size of boards are needed, you also need to know the application so you can provide the best product for whatever their project is. This is America, guys. People sometimes, they don't think, they want something, they want it now. The thought of waiting 6 months for lumber to dry that's insane today in today's world. That's insane. That's one of the reasons I built a solar kiln. I didn't want to have to wait either. But nonetheless, you get some of the best wood if you wait. You know, if it's stacked right and all. Stuff like that over there where that little clearing is under that yellow tree there, that beach. That's where you see deer laying sometimes. So anyway, it's not enough to just know how to cut wood, like I said, and it's not enough to know how to nail it up, but you must understand the product you're using and or providing, so you acquire a good solid reputation for giving the customer what they want and need. So I strive to do that. Sometimes I fail, and you know, I shouldn't say now, but I did in my working career. Sometimes you fail. There are some people out there that are out to get you. They want something from you. They're mad at the world, and no matter how hard you try to make things right, there's always something. They want a little something to make sure they feel like they've won. So you got to deal with that. But your reputation is important to you when you're in business. It is. When people see you coming, they should not be able to say, "Oh, this guy screwed this up. This guy screwed that up." They need to be able to say, "This guy is cunning. This guy is smart. This guy is going to make this happen." So that's something you want to think about. I wanted to tell you a little story about materials, and I don't have that much more on my mind to tell you about, but I remember when I was a young kid, or a young man I should say, I lived in the coal regions of Pennsylvania. So anyway, a couple from New York City had contacted me, and they asked me to build an addition onto their house. So I got the contract and everything, and I was at their house when I brought the contract to them. My contract was basic then. It wasn't the 12 pages I had. It was a lot less complicated, and it had loopholes in it which were not really good for me or them. But anyway, they contacted me to build this addition onto their summer home, and while I was meeting with them, I needed the job, so I wanted to sign it and close. They say closing on the deal is the thing you want to do, and for salesmen that's the only thing you do, close the deal, like selling cars. It's more important for them to sell a car than it is to do anything else, because that's where their money comes from. So for me, I needed to close the deal just so I could get, you know, work. I needed work at the time. So while meeting with the client, they had mentioned that they wanted a bidet. Okay, well, as a coal cracker from PA, I thought, how much can this fancy toilet cost? So on the spot, I said, sure, no problem. Only to find out that a bidet costs 4 times more than a freaking toilet. And not only that, it required all kinds of different plumbing. Not impossible, just different. I didn't know what it was. So that was a lesson I'll never forget. And as a result, I always tell the client I'll be back to you after I get to my office and make sure the price of things. After that, I never said to somebody, yeah, I can give you a price right now. I stopped doing that. I started waiting until I got back to my office to be able to come up with a decent price. So, and to figure out what I actually needed and what they wanted. So anyway, before you say yes to something you're not sure of, ask for time to figure things out. Also, keep up with the new products. You know how people today are more like, they want the latest and greatest? Well, the latest and greatest is an ongoing thing, and whether I agree with buying the latest and greatest before it's tested is irrelevant, because if the customer wants the latest and greatest, you're going to have to know what it is. So what you want to do is make sure you understand all about products and the new products that are coming out. Some of them are good, some of them not so good, you know. So anyway, in closing this thing, keep in mind that making inquiries of prices or materials, and again, I'm not a horse trader, I'm not good at it, nonetheless can be rewarding to go trying to make inquiries for prices, because you are sometimes offered good discounts, you don't have to ask, for being a cash or steady customer. Usually 5 minutes on the telephone can save, if you're lucky, it depends on who you're talking to, 5 minutes on the phone can save you hundreds or thousands of dollars. My wife has done it many times for us. Like I say, I'm not the horse trader. I had other people work for me that were good at it. They can, you know, break the salesman down, but I was never good at it because I never believed that it should be done. But it works, so why not do it? The last thing, guys, I want to say here before I get done, my hands are freaking freezing. That's not it, though. One other thing. The last thing I want to say is that all of these things I'm talking to you about, all of them, boil down to two numbers. One, the number that you charge per hour for everything I talked about in the past 3-4 videos. The number you charge for per hour, and oh man, I almost forgot what I was talking about. The number you charge per hour. How much things cost over time. So that gives you what your money is either losing or gaining in time. That's what you're talking about, your investment. So you learn about your investment and how much you're going to win or lose from it, and how much to charge by the hour. In other words, it might be 73 cents to add something in for the hour, like using a, I don't know, a generator on the project an hour to make it pay for itself, or it might be $73. It all depends on whether you've sat down, done all the things I've said so far, and put it all together. Guys, I know this is a freaking monotonous subject, but you know what? If you don't know these things, you suffer in the long run when it comes to being in business. I'm back to my driveway. Have a good one, guys. It's cloudy in Pennsylvania, and I'll tell you what, we got wind coming from the north. So you guys up in Elmira, you must be cold already, because it's getting cold here. Alright guys, bye.